The armed forces of Ukraine and the National Guard liberated Pankivka and the surrounding areas in the Dobropilya direction, the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine reports. Ukrainian soldiers operating in the operational zone of the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine restored control over Pankivka and adjacent settlements in the Donetsk region. Russian forces are trying to hold their positions and are reinforcing their groupings in the area. To increase offensive potential, additional reserves have been redeployed to the responsibility zone of the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine, 4 infantry brigades and 1 Marine regiment. The defense forces of Ukraine are making every effort to stop the enemy's advance and prevent a breakthrough in the defense, the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine emphasized. Earlier, the defense forces of Ukraine deoccupied the village of Zaporizhzhia in the Donetsk region. The settlement is now fully under the control of the Ukrainian army. In addition, the Ukrainian Shkval battalion of the Skelia regiment liberated the village of Filia on the border of Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk regions. On August 24th, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, reported that the defense forces conducted successful counterattacks in the Donetsk region and liberated 3 settlements from Russian occupation. Russian forces are still surrounded by Ukraine's military near Dobropilya, and the Russian army is frantically trying to break through to its encircled units. If they don't succeed, it could be a huge blow to Putin's military, and we may see a large number of soldiers killed or captured. The Kirishi oil refinery in the Leningrad region has significantly reduced oil processing after an attack by Ukrainian drones. This refinery is one of the largest in Russia, Reuters reports. 2 unnamed sources told the publication that after the fire caused by the drone attack, one of the units at the plant was shut down. This unit accounts for almost 40% of the enterprise's total capacity. Per year, such a refinery can process about 20 million tons or 400,000 barrels per day. According to Reuters interlocutors, a furnace and part of the equipment were damaged, and repairs may take about a month. According to the sources, the plant plans to increase the load of the operating units by about 20%. This should partially compensate for the shutdown of the damaged line and keep oil processing at around 75% of normal capacity. On the night of September 14th, Ukrainian defenders attacked the Kirishi refinery in the Leningrad region with drones. As noted by the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Robert Brovdy, this is one of the largest refineries in Russia, capable of processing up to 20 million tons of oil per year. The Unmanned Systems Forces clarified that after the strike on the refinery, a large-scale fire broke out there. U.S. President Donald Trump, for the first time, openly called Russia the aggressor in the war against Ukraine, acknowledging its heavier losses, says Politico. On Sunday, the American leader publicly admitted for the first time that Russia is the aggressor in the war against Ukraine. 8,000 soldiers have died this week from both countries, some more from Russia. But when you're the aggressor, you lose more, Trump told reporters, commenting on battlefield losses. Previously, the U.S. president had refused to directly condemn Moscow. In February, his administration, alongside Russia and North Korea, voted against a UN resolution supporting Ukraine's territorial integrity. Washington also opposed a G7 statement that labeled Russia as the aggressor. In April, Trump even blamed Ukraine for the conflict, saying, "You don't start a war against someone 20 times your size and then hope that people give you some missiles." By summer 2025, Trump's stance on the Kremlin had changed significantly. The U.S. administration ramped up pressure on Russian leader Vladimir Putin, who had been blocking Trump's attempts to arrange direct talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. His latest remarks suggest Washington is now taking a tougher line toward Moscow. Trump has previously criticized EU sanctions on Russia as too weak, urging European partners to adopt stronger restrictions. Recently, he announced a sweeping new sanctions package against Russia, potentially targeting the oil sector and banks. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said European countries should support Trump's initiative to punish states that continue trading with Putin. Earlier reports indicated that Trump did not rule out a possible meeting between Zelensky and Putin, but admitted it would be difficult to arrange. He also reminded reporters that he had stopped 7 wars and said he would like to end the war between Ukraine and Russia. At the same time, media outlets are speculating that the U.S. president might meet with Putin in Malaysia on the sidelines of the 47th ASEAN summit. The head of the Zaporizhzhia Regional Military Administration showed footage of the aftermath in the Kushuhum community following Russia's night attack. The Russians carried out at least 4 strikes. Russian troops targeted Zaporizhzhia Oblast with aerial bombs and drones overnight into September 15th, sparking fires and power outages in the region's suburbs, Regional Governor Ivan Fedorov reported on Telegram. The Russian forces struck the Kushuhum municipality in Zaporizhzhia district with at least 4 aviation hits, setting private homes ablaze. The Regional Military Administration said 4,900 households remain without power due to the attack. The village of Balabino is fully de-energized, while Kushuhum is partially affected. Utility workers are restoring power, with work expected to finish by day's end. Senator Lindsey Graham says sanctions haven't stopped Putin. He just sidesteps them. The next U.S. sanctions package, he noted, will target not Russia directly, but countries like China, India, and Brazil that help the Kremlin by buying its discounted oil and gas.
For Europe to get behind President Trump to punish Putin's customers. Putin has been sanctioned, literally his economy has been sanctioned every way it can be sanctioned. President Trump approach is to go after China and India. President Trump put a 25% tariff on every Indian product coming into America because they buy cheap Russian oil. He is now going after China. He posted yesterday to our European allies, mostly NATO allies, that he expects them to follow his lead by imposing tariffs on China for 50 to 100%, up to 100% on products coming into Europe. It is now time for Europe to get behind the Trump approach. The Europeans say they love the Graham bill. Graham-Blumenthal bill is 85 co-sponsors in the Senate that will allow President Trump to tariff people who buy cheap Russian oil and for their benefit, like China, India, Brazil. It is now time for the Europeans to follow President Trump's lead and go after China and India. China and India will change their practices toward Putin. This war would end.
All right. Well, Senator, you introduced that sanctions bill against Russia 6 months ago.
Yeah.
You have 85 people on board. Why issue an ultimatum to Europe and not Putin? Why not move forward with that bill now? And are you planning to do?
Putin doesn't care about sanctions. No sanctions have worked here. He evades sanctions. He lives well.
Are you going to push your bill forward, though? Are you going to get your bill on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.